Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's Robert Phoenix here. Looks like we're getting this stream live over on the 15 Minutes of Flame side. I am in an undisclosed location this morning doing today's show. How is everybody? Some interesting art behind me. My focus aid beside me. Good to get that focus aid in the morning. Gotta have it. I look a little like Leon Trotsky today, I think. It's not a good sign. Or maybe it is. I don't know. How is everyone? It is another day of scorching equatorial hell in Texas. I'm not sure where you are in the country, but it is the dog days of Sirius. The combined heat of binary suns bearing down upon us. A little onomatopoeia for your morning. How's that? Let me get back into YouTube. All right, there's Justice and Lori and Michael. Hey, Michael. And there's Jenny and there's Judy. What's happening? I'm just reloading YouTube. There I am. Just to make sure that we're in the flow here. Got 21 people watching now. All right. Picked up a few new subscribers. There's Joe Dimitri. Hi, Joe. Robert had a fuzzy face for a while. Good morning. I have a fuzzy face most of the time. Partially fuzzy face. There's Stephen Tatarski. Hi, Stephen. 42. Hi, Mary. Yeah, wow. Sunday night show was rocking, huh? That was a good show. Marina and I really hit the gas on Sunday night. We were flying around. It was great. I love stuff like that. I enjoy collaborating with people when the collaboration is a true collaboration. It's a really good. I got all those planets in Libra, so I like collaborating when it's right. I did a show that earlier in that day with this guy Jimmy Brent out of Las Vegas, and he was great. I mean, this guy Jimmy, he is dialed in, and that was a really good show too. So this last week was a whole week of collaboration. I actually did 1, 2, 3. I did 4 shows with 4 different people. So I hope you don't get sick of me, because there is such a thing as oversaturation. I've been thinking about that, and I'll be doing a show with Emily on Friday. So the collaboration beat goes on. The cool thing about that show with Marina is that it was under the Venus-Mars conjunction. So that was, it was kind of timely in a lot of ways, and it worked. Let's see who else is in the chat room. There's Shari. Shari's freezing. I just put on long sleeves, and I'm thinking of turning on the heat. Oh, wow. I wish I could send some of our heat to you, because we've had triple digits for like 2 weeks now, every day. We may dip down to about 98. A really cool and coastal 98. The challenge for the last couple of days has been the humidity, which has been not great. But hey, what do I care? I stay inside my apartment most of the day and basically work. So it's not like I'm out fixing phone lines or laying pipe, or I'm not doing that. I'm not mowing people's lawns. So I feel like at the very least I'm blessed by Lord AC. All right, who else we have? Astrofly. Hey, what's going on, Astrofly? Luann. Hi, Luann. And the Crimmies are here. Hey, good morning, guys. Justice. And Donna. Hey, Donna. Nice to see you. Wow, very cool having Donna Spicer in. Right on. Good deal. All right, so shall we get this thing rolling? Shall we get her rolling? Okay, so I wanted to, I found this article today on Henry Macau's site, and sometimes I will, source him indirectly. Today I'm going to source him directly, because it's a very, how do I say this? Certainly it's interesting. Oh, by the way, before we get into that, before we get into this Henry piece, Did you guys catch what was going on in Texas yesterday? I got this text from Dawn telling me about this SpaceX flight that was going to happen in Texas. And they basically made people leave their homes. They said that you have to evacuate your homes because there's going to be a space launch and it's going to be possibly quite dangerous and it may blow your windows out. So you have to leave. I'm like, what? And yesterday there was actually a link to the launch for the SpaceX flight in this area of Texas that wasn't barren, isolated, desolate. It might have been desolated, but it wasn't barren and isolated. There were homes, there were families, there were lives, and the question to me was, well, why that part of Texas? I've been to that area of SpaceX, by the way, in New Mexico, and so I was at this hot spring one time in Truth or Consequences, and was in one of their outdoor hot springs, and it's right on this river. It's kind of a cool place, actually. It's a little funky, you know. I mean, Truth or Consequences is funky. It is not, which is unfortunate because it actually has some really good hot springs, but it's still kind of, you know. I mean, maybe it's better that it's funky, and it hasn't been completely boutiqued out. So anyway, I was there, and there's this hill, large hill. It wasn't like a big hill, part of a mountain range, and then there was this river on the other side of these hot springs and the hot springs. And I saw this UFO. True story. I know it sounds wacko. True story. UFO comes down behind the mountain range, and that's where SpaceX launches its flights. Anyway, why would SpaceX have a launch in that part of Texas? Well, it seems to be that I was watching this guy, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, who's pretty interesting, and he's really into the whole space trip. And one of the things that he brought to my attention, which, you know, I kind of thought that this is a possibility, but one of the things that he brought to my attention is that there are these gaps in the ionosphere that move around the planet, or sometimes they're stationary, but sometimes they move. And the gaps are there so that the launch craft can actually go through the Van Allen radiation belts. So when they were launching, you know, back at Cape Kennedy or Corpus or wherever they were doing their launches, right? It was usually because there was a hole there that they could get through the Van Allen, but it wasn't always constant, which is why they would have these countdowns, because they knew that when they hit launch, they were going to be right into the eye of the needle and then get through the Van Allen. And I always wondered why they had the countdowns. This is what this guy, Richard Allen Miller, said. Anyway, it makes sense on some level. And what happened with Challenger is Challenger apparently missed the window and started to explode into flame. Anyway, I think that's what was happening with this launch in Texas, that they found dimensional possibility. And I think Contact, which was written by Carl Sagan, was probably anyway, they've the graphic so you guys can check it out. Okay, so he's David Goldberg. He's 59, and he was dead. He's dead now. He was apparently murdered on June 8th, which is not that long ago. And it's important to note, I guess, that he's a dead Jewish whistleblower versus just a whistleblower. And it's important also to note that, I think that, and get to the truth, versus their cultural, religious indoctrinations, because that's where the truth will set you free. And this guy, crossed some lines here, because what he was exposing was Iran and Israel and Donald Trump. Okay, so I think that the noting that he was Jewish here is important on a number of different levels. Most, for me, the biggest is that we can get really, how do I say this, pushed into a corner around typecasting. And just when you think that you've got things figured out and the world looks a certain way and this is how it operates, somebody or something will come along and will show you that that isn't always completely true across all levels. So it's important to remember that. Okay? So, and then this also, the way that he puts this in there, also legitimizes in some ways what I'm about to talk about. Right? It's not somebody who is a quote unquote Jew hater, although perhaps somebody inside of that world might call him a self-hating Jew, but that's a different discussion altogether. So let me read you this in totality. It's not that long. So you could read the first paragraph. David Goldberg, 59, left, was murdered June 8, after revealing that a White House insider provided him with memos that revealed, 1, Trump had converted to Judaism 2 years ago and was planning an attack on Iran this autumn in order to fulfill Jewish prophecy. 2, Trump believes his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is destined to be the Messiah, i.e. the Antichrist. Now, I've been talking about Jared Kushner for quite a while. You guys know that. Astrologically, his true node is in Leo, and it is right on Trump's Pluto. And remember, I talked about the Leo code, which is this interesting sort of tapestry of Leo that is woven through most of the modern post-World War II, post-Eisenhower presidents, where Leo plays a role. And it does, in a pretty significant way. And even though Jared Kushner is a Capricorn, he does have that true node, and it's right on Trump's Pluto, which means it's drilled right into, in a lot of ways, Trump's most intense, powerful, profound, deep, dark point in his chart. Pluto in the 12th house. So I've been calling Jared Kushner Secret Agent 00666 for a while now. All right, here we go. April 12th, 2018. So this is where Macau writes about it initially. Here, Michael Berg said Trump is the instrument of a fanatical Kabbalist cult, the Chabad, which believes the Goy must be destroyed in the Third World War in order for the Messiah to return and assume leadership over a Masonic Jewish-dominated world. And so this is what Henry puts into the disclaimer. I cannot vouch for this information, but it certainly confirms our worst fears that cannot be ignored. Source: President Donald Trump converted to Judaism 2 years ago and joined Chabad Lubavitch Synagogue in New York City, according to a high-level White House official. According to the source, Trump was pushed by his daughter Ivanka and his son-in-law Jared Kushner to join the faith. At first, Trump resisted, stating it could threaten his base of evangelical Christian voters. However, he had a change of heart and officially converted in 2017. The ceremony was held in private, closely guarded for 2 years. This does not surprise me, by the way, at all. It appears the White House is prepared to slowly release this information, and by summer it is expected Trump will fully address his new faith in an evening televised news conference. Well, he's been signaling this already. His whole series of tweets and related media drops and press conferences where he's talking about if you're Jewish and you vote against me, you're voting against Israel. So Trump is very, very cagey, and he wants to stay close to a power base so he can be elected. And Chabad is very, very powerful. They have a lot of money. They have a ton of influence. They're connected into the Likud through Benjamin Netanyahu. So this is a very, very powerful network, and Trump has decided that he, apparently according to this article, wants to be deeply embedded in that syndicate, and it's a syndicate in my estimation. President Donald Trump and his inner circle are planning an extensive invasion of Iran. According to a source working in the White House, the plan involves a ground mission and the use of tactical nuclear weapons, and a campaign plan has been ramped up over the past year in preparation. A false flag is being prepared to be used before the war with Iran. Propaganda is being prepped by the White House with Israeli counterparts. Israel will support the effort, and Benjamin Netanyahu was reportedly smiling ear to ear during a recent meeting with John Bolton. There are concerns Trump's base may resist or criticize the efforts, so further propaganda efforts are being made to shore up the support for the war. Expected casualties, check this out, range between 1.2 million and 2 million Iranians and 5,000 U.S. troops. Due to President Trump's close relationship with Jared Kushner, a sense of sober import has been placed on the war effort, which is being as a fulfillment of Jewish prophecy within White House circles. Many in the White House believe Jared Kushner is the Messiah, or the Jewish Moshiach, who cannot attain his throne until Iran is wiped out. Well, theoretically, most of the world has to be wiped out. I guess I'll start with Iran. The White House source is a high-level official who's been right about many other things in the past, and their identity has been verified. President Donald Trump has reportedly told close senior White House associates that he wants Jared Kushner on the presidential ticket in 2020, which we've talked about. Two senior sources have said the president has expressed he would prefer Kushner as vice president over Mike Pence, in part due to the fact that Trump believes Kushner is the Jewish Messiah, or Moshiach. The source has added that Trump said he generally likes the job Mike Pence has done, but that the president stated things are moving so quickly with our plans in Israel that we need Kushner closer to power. That sounds like Trump. That sounds like something Trump would say. The quote was provided by a source who said that Trump said this verbatim, word for word. The source did not speculate on what the president meant by plans in Israel or why Kushner would need to be close to power. The Kushner family continues to garner controversy with the recent publication of Kushner, Inc. by author and researcher Vicky Ward. Okay, so I want to talk about Jared Kushner a little bit, and then I'm going to get into this this piece around what this person unveils and reveals inside this article. I think, and this gets into Q, I think that Q, while Q has been an interesting operation to begin to wake people up on some level, and I'm going to, just say I'm glad that that's happened and taking place. The challenge with Q is that awakening and that kind of process is always in a very controlled environment, meaning that people could wake up, but they had to stay in alignment with the Q drops. Trust the plan, trust the plan, trust the plan, popcorn, popcorn, popcorn. And not once does Q ever talk about Jared Kushner. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, because I don't follow Q to the letter of Q. I don't. I check in with it and I just see what's out there. I'm peripheral. But I don't think there's any real critical thought or analysis or Q drops around Jared Kushner. And Jared Kushner is one of the most dangerous people in the United States and the world. Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump have essentially been, I wouldn't say they've been president, because I think Trump has got his own fingers in the pie, but they're very, very responsible for a lot of the public policy that Trump has implemented, especially on the border and especially with the immigration plans. Jared Kushner was responsible for the exodus of Flynn and Steve Bannon. And I think the Trump administration would be far better off with the two of them in there, but they're gone now. So to that extent, Jared Kushner, I think is a real threat. And if there's anybody out there who's got any kind of power clout, which I think is very, very difficult at this point, that guy needs to be out. He needs to be removed. He needs to be as far away from the White House as possible. But I think we're looking, and I talked about him like bang on. And one of my first interviews around him was in Colorado. I think it was my last show with Regina in Colorado. And I remember talking about or broaching Pizzagate a little bit, and the producer of the show was very nervous. Okay, let's not try to go there too much. Needless to say, that was my last show at Gaia with Regina. He was like, we don't want. I don't think Robert should be here anymore. That's okay. Regina still loves me. All right, so this is the this is inside the piece itself, and I'll throw this link in the chat, or I'm going to throw it in the chat, but I'll throw it in the show page. So this is somebody who wrote in. A personal friend reveals. This is very telling stuff. David kept me abreast of things over email, and he told me that he'd been given some documents he felt could, for certain, get him killed. The documents related to some internal White House memos in which a couple of New York rabbis were meeting with Trump frequently. And the memos talked about the nature of those meetings. I didn't get full details, except that it seems the rabbis were going to deliver for Trump a re-election victory if he did things they were asking. I guess Trump was listening intently because, well, this is what David said to me. Because the rabbis had a lot of power in ways in which they could rig the elections if they needed to. The memos also talked about how Trump's poll numbers were not very good. He could easily lose in 2020. And the White House knew this, and this was part of the reason why Trump was paying so much attention to these rabbis. I guess they just have a lot of control or something, and Trump needed them. David said the documents, if they ever got out, would be very bad for Trump, because there was no way he could put a positive spin on them. He said the memos were pretty blunt. It seemed to have been written by a couple of staffers coordinating the meetings. There were also documents in David's safe that we were able to recover after the cops left. They took a lot of David's stuff without any explanation as to why. But they didn't get the safe, which was a floor safe, and it's possible they didn't even know it was there. In fact, we're pretty certain they didn't know it was there because it was very well hidden. David was a smart guy. David was smart and put pretty much everything in that safe that was important. David had also given at least 3 friends access to his online accounts, instead of something happened to him to be ready to take over. The rest of his stuff, which was paper, notes, his computers, and phones, had some information, but nothing like what was in the safe, where he kept all of it. The friends removed everything from his safe and have made copies of what they could, and have those copies in safe places in case anything happens. There will be some more updates coming. We are talking on a video which will show the documents, and also have retained a lawyer to go over how best we can present the information David left behind. So there is a video, and I'll tell you what, I'll make sure that video is in the link for the show as well, so you guys can grab that. So let me just check back in with you and see what your thoughts are on this. I don't think it's that far-fetched at all, to be honest with you. I don't think it's that far-fetched at all. What do you guys think about this? Where's your head at with this? Let's see, we got let's see, where are we with Facebook or YouTube? Are we on? Okay, here we go. Kushner is Judas. No, Kushner is Damien from The Omen. Okay, what else? I remember how U.S. Christians greeted former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon as a rock star and willingness to die to fulfill biblical prophecy. Trust the plan, learn the code, it is all crazy. Let's see what else. If we were Kung Fu Panda team, which animal would you be? That is really funny. Really funny. Q's controlled opposition, 100%. Yep. Q still silent since Epstein. And what else do we have? Hopefully the panda at Astrofly in Dubai, but my knee hurts right now. Phony Phoenician Fiat tribe members getting a free ride. Yeah, we don't. Yeah, getting a free ride. We got to put this stuff. We got to put the brakes on this stuff, man. It's really important. And I'm not being anti-Semitic here. I'm sure that there are Jewish people who are very much in favor of us not going to war with Iran. We're not going to war in general, and certainly not supporting Trump, because for the most part, liberal Jews do not support Trump. I don't. So this is kind of a major. it's kind of a major deal, especially the prophecy stuff with Kushner, which I think is really dangerous because they believe this shit. The guy's one of the most unimpressive people I've seen. He's right up there. But who knows? Maybe that's all an act. Maybe that's all an act. Maybe he's got like some, I don't know, some Sith overlord who has taken possession of his body. And when he's not in public trying to distance himself from Donald Trump's sons, maybe he's like, ominous and powerful and all that shit. Let's see what else we have here. I can't see how many in the chat today, Chief, but you put well over 80 for one of last week's. We got 42 today. Something about it rings true. Sadly, I'm not surprised at all. I believe it. There we go. So, it's out there. It is out there. The information is out there. And do we affect or alter the flow of the matrix through conscious awareness and recognition? I believe to some extent we do. So just by talking about this, just by it getting out there, who knows where it goes from here? It started at one place, came here, goes to another place, and now all of a sudden people are engaged in looking at this and applying their conscious awareness to it. I want to talk about Epstein a little bit, and I'm going to get into one other interesting piece which we've talked about before, and it's kind of a follow-up piece. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but Harvey Weinstein is on trial this week. And apparently the actress Annabella Sciorra testified that Epstein raped her many years ago. So it's outside of the limits, right? That she could actually use that. And apparently court allowed it anyway because it helps galvanize their case that Harvey Weinstein is an animal. But it's interesting because we're not dealing with Epstein, we're dealing with Weinstein. It's a different Steen. And there is now he is the fulfillment of the Me Too bounty hunt, right? That's what Weinstein is. And so there's this weird kind of like replacement model going on. And by the way, the Epstein stuff is ground to a halt. And I think Trump extracted him. When I looked at that chart, I think he extracted him. I don't think. I was watching this guy. Who is it? One of those Q guys. And he was talking about how Epstein was removed and he was taken to Guantanamo. Okay, so why? Okay, so if that's the case, and this is where you got to use your head a little bit. If that's the case, then why did they go through all this rigmarole with the supposed suicide? Why not just bring in the military? It's a federal prison. And why didn't they just bring in the military, which they did anyway? Why didn't they just bring in the military and take him out and say, we're doing we are taking him to Guantanamo because there are all these things that happened. He's a security risk. We can't let this information get out in a public trial. We're going to be setting up a military tribunal in Guantanamo. Why couldn't they have just done that instead of this, phony bullshit suicide trip? Because that would have done, I think, a lot more to extend some credibility to this fairy tale that they've been playing with for a long time about Q. And as a result of that, it also would have shown people, oh, this is a government you don't fuck around with. This is a government you don't fuck. But it all, goes back down into this little vortex that circles and circles and circles the drain of reality and the drain of reality events and gets sucked right through. Anyway, I think Epstein's still around. I think he was extracted. I think Trump was told to extract him, and that's what happened. And I don't think he's there to provide, because they know the shit anyway. They know all this stuff anyway. They've been involved with him. The CIA's been involved with him. They know it all. What more do they need? They need to pull his fingernails out to get the secret codes? I don't think so. He's living somewhere else now. Anyway, Weinstein is the replacement, and I was sent a piece yesterday about Me Too. I sent a piece about Me Too and Epstein. And it was really interesting because Me Too, hashtag Me Too, has been incredibly silent around the Epstein stuff. Like, really silent. Like, there were no women at a high level. Like, where was Asia Argento? Man, she is talking about the witness protection program. Ever since Bourdain's death, you can't find her. What about Miss Alyssa Milano? Where's Alyssa Milano with Epstein and the Me Too stuff? Where is she? She's nowhere to be found. And so what does that tell us about these people? Is that they're agents and that they're deployed when they're told to do their thing. That's what they are. If they were truly motivated by social justice, they would have been there with NXIVM. They would have been there with the Epstein stuff, but they're not. They have an agenda. And so their agenda is getting played out with Harvey Weinstein in lieu of Jeffrey Epstein. So it's kind of a magic trick, actually, is what it is. Prestidigitation. So we're focusing on this other guy versus the other guy. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about information in what's happening with Google. So let me clarify a couple things. I wanted to clarify some stuff about Google and DuckDuckGo. I said Google had bought DuckDuckGo. Google had actually bought Duck.com. And at some point, a judge actually forced Google, believe it or not, to sell Duck.com to DuckDuckGo. Now, DuckDuckGo will have different search results than Google. However, where does DuckDuckGo pull their search data from? From basically two sources. Bing, which is Microsoft's search engine, which nobody uses. And the other is Yahoo. And Google basically did a deal with Yahoo, kept Yahoo alive. Because Yahoo was bleeding cash in a big way. And Google went in and did a big advertising deal with Yahoo. And now Yahoo is part of the Google family, the Google chain. And Google seeds search results into Yahoo. So if Google is seeding search results into Yahoo and DuckDuckGo is pulling search results from Yahoo, they're getting Google search via third party. But they're also getting Bing stuff. At the end of the day, it's still better than Google, though not as good as used to be. DuckDuckGo was better. So I wanted to read this other story. This is about the burying of information. And this is from Zero Hedge, and I'll read this too. Google is burying alternative health sites to protect people from dangerous medical advice. So let me read this to you guys. For their unorthodox views, some physicians are being treated as medical heretics. Google's search engine algorithm has essentially ended traffic to their websites. Mercola was the top of the hit list for them. The totalitarians claim noble goals for book burning. They want to spare citizens unhappiness caused by having to sort through conflicting theories. That's from Fahrenheit 451. Censorship is controlled. The real aim of censorship in Bradbury's dystopia is to control the population. Captain Beatty explains to the protagonist, Fireman Montag, you can't build a house without nails and wood. If you don't want a house built, hide the nails and wood. The house Beatty is referring to is opinions in conflict with the official one. If you don't want a man unhappy politically, don't give him two sides to a question to worry him. Give him one. Better yet, give him none. Let him forget there is such a thing as war. If the government is inefficient, top-heavy, and tax-mad, better it be all those than that the people worry over it, Bradbury wrote. Nobel laureate copes with conflicting opinions. When making decisions, we often face conflicting theories. Daily, we face choices about what to eat. Although the government issues ever-changing dietary guidelines, thankfully the marketplace supports personal dietary decisions, ranging from carnivore to vegan. We are free to choose our diet based on our evaluation of the available evidence and the needs of our bodies. When we face health issues, decisions become tougher. There is an orthodox opinion, and there are always dissenting opinions, for example. After its June 19 algorithm update, Google is relying more on human quality raters. Google instructs raters that the lowest ratings should go to a YMYL page with inaccurate, potentially dangerous medical advice. YMYL stands for your money or your life. We have a very high page quality rating standards for YMYL because low quality YMYL pages could potentially negatively impact happiness, health, financial stability, or safety. So basically, this is what Google says. So basically, what Google is doing is that they're culling data in a different kind of way. They've created kind of a node that they can focus in on, and they're defining their algorithm based on that, not about what's popular. So this is the fairness piece that they've hardwired into their new algorithm. Does that sound reasonable? If a site argues for treatments other than the medical orthodoxy, then by definition the site can arouse readers' cost or concern. For some people, unhappiness. Do we really want Google to assume the role of Brad? It's a really big part of the movie. And Anna Freud, I believe that's her name, Anna Freud, Freud's daughter, was heavily promoted and did a lot of work with veterans coming home from World War II as well. It was a big deal, psychotherapy and working with veterans, the first wave of shock victims, the PTSD guys, which a lot of people don't talk about, by the way. When fathers came home from the war and started having kids, those fathers were really fucked up. They're fucked up. They were. And they had issues. And they had issues around discipline, control, anger, abuse. And back then it was kind of like, well, this is what men do. They're disciplinarians. And not everybody went to the war, but a lot of men did. And it created a lot of stress with their families. And it doesn't get talked about very much. And it's one of those things, one of those waves of of trauma that, of course, wash up on the shore of our everyday lives, through however that affected people, affected their kids, their grandkids, their great grandkids, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it lives on through the DNA and the biology of the experience. All right, where are we? Let me get back here. All right, I got to get out of here. Let me just wish you all a wonderful Tuesday. I'll be back tomorrow. Perhaps we can revisit some of this information. And at the very least, stay alert. Stay alert. And, do your very best to stay sane at the same time in your own way. And it may not look that way to other people, but do your best. I'm Robert Phoenix. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to say what's possible. You've been listening, watching 15 Minutes of Flame.